Okay, let's complete the setting up process and we shall get started. Okay, we are recording and we are live. Thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started, and the Clintonville Area Commission meeting will now begin. Welcome, everyone, and we'll go ahead and have a formal welcome here, as I always do, and introduce the role of the commission. Welcome to your Clintonville Area Commission, committed to the undertaking of the preservation of the values of the community through promotion, implementation, and recommendation to city officials. The CAC was empowered in 1974 by the Columbus City Charter to represent the Clintonville community in the discussion of community concerns. By city code, the purpose of the CAC is to afford additional voluntary citizen participation in the decision-making in an advisory capacity and to facilitate communications, understandings, and cooperation between neighborhood groups, city officials, and developers. We'll go ahead and get started with commissioner introductions and district updates. Let's begin with District 1, Commissioner Rotero, and happy belated Canada Day to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We do celebrate Canada Day in this household. Thanks very much. I would have been in Canada with my parents, but unfortunately the pandemic still has borders closed. But District 1 has been quiet but very hot. I'm trying to stay up with some of the questions that had come up with regard to the CREST application, which I understand will be postponed a month. So I think that's going to work out well. There were some questions and some dialogue I've had with neighbors about that, so I think that's going to work to the better. I also have fielded a few inquiries about some longstanding issues here in South Clintonville. So some correspondence, cordial meetings. Everybody's just trying to stay cool and also deal with the kind of unique political climate we're living in right now.
Yes, indeed, for sure. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your service and being so responsive to your constituency. We'll go to District 2.
Hi guys, it's Brian. Yesterday was technically my first day as commissioner, so I don't have too much to report. I did not get any updates from Cara between the last meeting and this one in terms of things going on in the neighborhood. So I'm assuming that's good and everything's remaining quiet. And so just looking forward to the opportunity to serve as a commissioner and ready to take on more things on my second day.
Well, thank you for coming back, and we're looking forward to having you in full swing as well. We'll go on to District 3.
We've been pretty quiet. I've had a couple of meetings with people and answered a few questions over email, but pretty much that's about it.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to District 4, which is Judy Minister. Commissioner Minister just emailed me late this afternoon stating that she would not be present at this evening's meeting. So we will we'll go ahead and move on to District 5.
Hi, everyone. There is some repaving happening on Blenheim and Arden in District 5. Seems to be going well. Appreciate the updates from the city on the process there. And other than that, just dealing with a couple individual questions from neighbors, but nothing too big to report. Thanks.
Okay, don't want to share anything specific or anything at this point?
About the specific neighbor questions?
Well, just wondering if we could be of some help or anything.
Yeah, I have a resident with a downspout issue. So I think she has emailed a few times to the city trying to pinpoint the source of the flow. I talked to her this morning. There's concern about a pond about a block away, potentially having some overflow down the hill. And there is also, I think, a garage downspout behind her property. Garage downspouts are not included in some of the updates that are happening over there. I think it's all house downspouts. So that was kind of where we were at in the process of figuring out
Okay.
what's happening in her yard.
Well, don't feel too, we've heard of many of these issues before, many of us. So don't feel, don't shy away from tugging on our pant leg to help navigate some of these issues, because chances are we've heard them before. So just reach out to any one of us. We'd be happy to help.
Thank you. I appreciate
All
it.
right. I do have a report for District 6. Commissioner Carpenter just texted me about 10 minutes ago, and in her role as in her attorney profession, she did get called away to an emergency special circumstance that she had to tend to, so she will not be present tonight. And we'll move on to District 7.
My fall off. Mike Wyman with District 7. Don't really have anything to report. We've got a complaint about some signs in the city right away, and I'm gonna reach out to those folks. I called the complainant as well, but he hasn't returned my call yet, so just working on that.
Yeah, I'm noticing that's happening a lot. And I don't know if it's people have purchased extra signage to put out there to make sure that people know who are passing by that they're open for business. I don't know if that's the case or what, but I've just, first I've heard of it, Commissioner Wyman. So just let us know what you find out, okay? All right, Commissioner Garrison.
Jim Garrison, Commissioner for District 8, and really nothing to report. Surprisingly, things have been going okay in terms of monitoring online activity. It's just a lot of people being dissatisfied with no one wearing masks. But aside from that, the typical blueprint isolated incidents, there's one person who has a driveway apron problem that, long story short, all of his neighbors got their part of the curbs and some of their aprons replaced, and his property was overlooked. And so, there's some things that I need to look into and coordinate, but not a lot going on right now. I think everyone is just enjoying the warm weather.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Garrison. We appreciate that. Circle back to us and let us know what that resolve is on the back end of that apron restoration issue, okay?
I will. And one kind of side note to that is that there's a curb reimbursement program with the city, and there's an application process with that. But in terms of specific to driveway aprons, that's excluded from the reimbursement program. So just for anybody that's watching this or sees it later, that's a thing that aprons are basically resident responsibility, and curbs can be city as long as they're approved through the process.
All right. Well, thank you for that. That's something that I've shared with some neighbors too. But thank you so much. And I'll go ahead and give District 9 report. District 9 report. I'm working with a neighbor, my actual next door neighbor, who had a sewer backup problem in his basement. The city came out and repaired a deteriorated bell on the sewer main, and the excavation and repair concluded on that the day after Father's Day of 2019. And there is still a crater at the back of our lot. And it still hasn't been filled in from where they excavated. So we've enjoyed our mini pond and the deer coming up and drinking from it, but it's time that it gets filled in. And I had to do some reminding of that. So hopefully that gets resolved soon. It's been a year now, a year and 3 weeks. So we're hoping that the city comes back to fill in the hole. Other than that, no other news to report, except for the Ohio State School for the Blind actually started ringing their chimes again, which has gone away. They were here when I first moved in the late 90s. They were ringing, and then they stopped. And then all of a sudden, we started hearing them this week. So that's been the big talk in the neighborhood is the Ohio State School for the Blind. Their chimes are ringing, and it's a welcome sound, and people are enlightened by them. So other than that, that's all I have to report from District 9. Everything's fine in District 9. We'll go ahead and conclude our commissioner introductions and district updates. And I did want to go ahead and formally announce that Paul Bingle, longstanding member of the Clintonville Area Commission's Zoning and Variance Committee resigned due to moving out of the Ville. He and his wife Linda built a house up in Lewis Center. And I'll just read for you a statement here. We bid a fond farewell to Paul Bingle, who has resigned from the CAC Zoning and Variance Committee after serving for 36 years of service to Clintonville. As a community, we owe Paul a debt of gratitude for his years of service. Paul began his journey with his first noticeable Clintonville community project, the dreaming, design, fundraising, and dedication of the Reading Garden at the new Whetstone Library. It started as a point of criticism and with a challenge from a peer to do something about it. The decades of problem solving commenced for Paul, particularly enlivened when the folks said that it couldn't be done. Paul's journey included his initial appointment to the Clintonville Area Commission, facilitating his involvement and leaving a mark with the city's project in 2020 street lighting program with its enhanced residential thoroughfare lighting options. The deaf and blind school water pillars. I see those right now out my front window. Multiple community park improvements with a focus on Whetstone, residential tree plantings, and the early phase of the new fire station at the High Street Commercial Improvement District project. Paul describes it as a joy serving the Clintonville Area Commission's Elections Committee and as District 7 Commissioner, as the Physical Service Committee Chair and the CAC Secretary and Treasurer and Chair. So we bid a very fond farewell and thank Paul Bingle for his 36 years of service to the Clintonville Area Commission and the community. So thank you, Paul. We'll go ahead and move on to consideration of prior meeting minutes. I went ahead and prepared the minutes. I think Cara was anxiously waiting to exit stage left. So I told her that I would go ahead and prepare the minutes to put her off the hook. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes for June? Okay. Are we? I'm sorry, Commissioner Weatherholt, did you have something?
I really haven't had a chance to look at them, but if everybody else has, that's fine. They came in plenty of time, so. Okay.
So the minutes were essentially dictated from a YouTube video, which is permanently recorded and archived. So if anyone has anything that they'd like to suggest so far as edits to the minutes, please advise. If not, are we prepared to vote to accept the minutes as presented?
I move we approve the minutes as accepted, as presented.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Thank you. Anyone opposed? Okay, then the minutes shall be approved as presented. Thank you for that. All right, we will go ahead and leapfrog over Commissioner Carpenter's treasurer report. But I would ask at this time, did everyone find the reminders for the reimbursement expense, the expense reimbursement forms? Did everybody find those helpful? Stephen? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay, well, Commissioner Carpenter requested that chairs and commissioners submit their expense reimbursement forms monthly. so that she can prepare a monthly report with consideration of those expenses. So I thought it prudent to set up reminders and due dates in the calendar and have those automatically sent. So that's a little bit of a new practice that we've done just to kind of help Commissioner Carpenter with her bookkeeping and to make sure that everybody's submitting their expense reimbursements in a timely manner. Okay, I think we're ready to go on to the variance agenda, and we'll go to
Catherine call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Weatherholt. I appreciate you. Your role as Sergeant at Arms is highly appreciated. Sorry, Catherine. Please, Catherine Call, our neighborhood community liaison. The floor is yours.
I have a lot to report today. So I am just going to share my screen and kind of read from all of the notes that I have. BJ, can you permit me to share the screen?
You should be able to.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing. That's okay. I can just read from it too. So the first announcement, today Mayor Ginther has enacted an executive order requiring face masks to be mandatory. It is important to note in this executive order, he wanted to emphasize that police will not be driving around and patrolling and looking for people not wearing masks. So it's to be emphasized that people are not going to be targeted. If individuals are unable to access a mask, they can contact 311 and they will be linked with an agency that provides free masks to the community. This executive order starts tomorrow. So please share that information with your communities. And I'll also disseminate information about 311. Another important update with 311, they will, as of Monday, be taking live calls again. We are open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays, but individuals can also continue to submit online requests, 311.columbus.gov, and also on the mobile app and sending emails. I sent out 2 emails regarding fireworks. This has been a source of concern probably since COVID started, at least in my neighborhood. I know I've been hearing them since March. Today, the Columbus Division of Fire released a letter regarding ongoing concerns with illegal firework activity. We are aware that there is going to be an uptick this weekend. Columbus Division of Fire has created specialized teams that's going to be working to address these issues. And to piggyback off that, I already saw that the Columbus Division of Fire and Police have made 1 raid of illegal firework sales. Columbus Division of Fire wants to remind the public that the only legal fireworks to be displayed in Ohio are snakes, smokes, snaps, and sparkles. The use of any explosive fireworks is illegal throughout Columbus. If you have concerns that your neighbors are using illegal fireworks, you can call the non-emergency Columbus Police line, which is 614-645-4545. An update on COVID-19. As of yesterday, there were 7,438 cases in Columbus and Worthington. Every Friday, Columbus Health Department is now releasing detailed reports about this. You can also look up up-to-date information at columbus.gov/coronavirus. And there you can also see not only facts, but information about free testing in Columbus, as well as social service supports. The mayor of Columbus stated that a civilian review board is one of his top priorities in the negotiating with the Fraternal Order of Police. This week, he announced the formation of a working group to develop a civilian review board with the goal of having the board established by the end of 2020. 14 members have been named to the Chief's Advisory Panel, which will allow the community stakeholders to have a meaningful way to provide input on strategies and development of community policing practices, as well as a way for increased transparency with police operations. We have received a lot of questions, comments, requesting support on what an area commission's role is at this time, as we have seen the demonstrations taking place over the past month. Conversations have been raised about what is the commission's role on the commission's social media site and webpage. And I sent this out, and the director sent it out, I believe Monday or Tuesday of this week, but we wanted to offer support and suggestions. So some of the bullet points that we offer was to post official actions taken by the commission. These can include creating resolutions or letters signed by all members. Individual commissioners can continue to share personal points of view on their own social media. You guys can share information regarding upcoming neighborhood events, distribute surveys or invitations to public forums hosted by the city to provide an opportunity to offer input to a particular issue. And in an effort to be completely transparent, we are encouraging people to not delete comments on social media posts unless they include profanity, direct threats, or some sort of protected information. So those are the main things I wanted to highlight. I also just sent out an email to all of the commissioners with additional city updates that you guys can also share on your social media pages and platforms.
All right. Catherine, does that conclude your report?
It does.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And you're sending out some really good, comprehensive content that is very easy for us to share. And it creates ease for our tech and PR committee. So thank you so much for making our job easy to share information. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Chair Hardwick, we'll go ahead and give you the mic now.
There we go. We have two items to present to the commission tonight. As Commissioner Votero said, the Crest wanted to gather the Crest had promised to get some additional information, and they were still working on gathering it, and asked to be put off until next month's agenda for the CAC. First on the agenda that we're presenting is 543 Fallis, BZA 20049. In order to replace a garage, homeowner Mike Holtman with Representative David Eppard seeks variances to reduce the required side yard from 3 feet to 1.5 feet, reduce the garage, the house maneuvering requirement from 20 feet to 18 feet. That would keep the same setback where it is. They are making it a bit longer than it was before. But if it looks like they currently have 15 feet of backyard available under this plan. And if they pushed it back another, and I'm talking now about the maneuvering requirement, if they pushed it back another 2 feet from their house, that means they'd only have 13 feet. It just come out of that small backyard. We thought about that, and also since that is a problem mostly to the extent that it's a problem that there's less maneuvering room, that's a problem internal to the owner, and that doesn't affect anyone else. I've attached a letter from the neighbor immediate neighbor who supports the side yard variance. It was recommended approved by 7-0 by the committee. That's the
Okay.
end of my report on it.
All right, thank you, Chair Hardwick. We appreciate that. And I believe the applicants are here.
Yes.
Would you like to say anything? Would you like to say anything on your behalf before we vote?
The only thing that I said last time was that neighbor, Haltman's neighbor signed that letter and really would like the garage setback to stay where it is because there's a fence tied in there, trash can set up, and a whole bunch of different things that would just get all discombobulated if we had to move the garage.
Okay,
That's the main reason for not moving the set, besides the maneuverability, because it's a narrow driveway, and if you shove the garage over more, you can't get in and out 2 cars.
okay.
That's
All right.
all.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Are there any commissioners who have questions for this applicant about the variance request?
I have a question. I'm sorry, I had to unmute. Not necessarily a question. Well, yeah, the side yard variance request, the 1.5 feet, is that to the face of the building or is that to the edge of where the gutter will be or the overhang of the eave of the garage?
Currently, the 1.5 feet is from property line to building wall.
Okay. So the one thing that I would just point out, and it's just something that comes up a lot, the code reads section 333.2.26 or 3332.26. I don't know why I said it that way. The minimum side yard is the least dimension between any part of the building or structure, not necessarily the wall. So any overhangs would usually need to be considered in terms of asking for the variance. And while I'm not necessarily opposed to anything, I wouldn't imagine that the overhang might be that much, but it's just something to keep in mind before you possibly inadvertently build a garage with the eave or the gutter overhanging a property line.
Right now, there is no eave because it's a flat roof, but good point. If and when the new garage is built, we'll keep the eave to a minimum.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, it's just something that comes up, and it's something people overlook, and I wouldn't want the BZA to deny something based upon that, as long as you kind of have that in your back of your mind.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrison. Does anyone else on this commission have a question to direct to the applicant about this variance request? All right, do we have a motion to vote?
I move to vote.
I'd second that.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and call roll. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4, District 5,
Yes.
District 6, District 7.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyman. District 8
Yes.
and District 9 too shall vote yes. So your variance request has been approved, David. I'll go ahead and prepare the standard recommendation form and have that emailed to the BZA on Monday, no later than noon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Congratulations and good luck on your project.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Chair Hardwick.
Okay, the second and final one for today is BZA 20047, 4655 Rustic Bridge Road. In order to build a new addition to allow for a first floor handicap accessible bedroom, homeowner Jane Vandenberg asked for a variance to decrease a setback from 35 feet to 21 feet 6 inches. The owner said that they would remove the current attached porch and bump it out about 4.5 feet to the north, which is the side yard. There was no opposition from no comment or opposition from anyone outside, and it was easily approved 7-0.
Okay, thank you so much. And the applicants are here. Hello.
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 Would you like to address the commission so far as anything with regard to the variance request, other than what Chair Hardwick has shared?
Just that we love our neighborhood in South Beachwell, and we, as we face things like joint replacement at this age, we are hoping we can stay here.
Fantastic. Do we have a report from the area from your area commissioner?
That's Kendra?
Okay. And of course, she's absent, so.
We did not get one.
Okay, all right, thank you. All
Madam
right,
Chair, I would add that we sent letters to all of our neighbors, include like everybody, like 6 or 7 of them, and they're on file that no one has had an opposition to the project.
fantastic. I applaud your proactivism. I think that's wonderful. Okay, so do I have a motion to vote? Are we ready to vote?
I move to vote.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second on the floor?
Second.
Fantastic. We'll call roll. District 1.
I will abstain, and let me explain my reason for abstaining. Jane and I have been coworkers for 30 years, and Jane, remember, is still on the board of directors at my employer, so I probably shouldn't be voting on her project. But I wish them both well. It's a great house. I'm glad you're staying there.
Okay, I'm going to make a note of that and include that in the voting record and the standard recommendation form. Thank you, Commissioner Botero.
That explains the lettering on this plan.
All right, District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4, District 5,
Yes.
District 6, District 7.
I'm all for handicap accessibility, so I will vote yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyman. District 8
Yes.
and District 9 too shall vote yes. Your variance request has been approved 7-0. I'm sorry, 6-0 with 1 abstention. I will get that standard recommendation form to the BZA and copy you on it no later than noon on Monday.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.
Well, good luck with your project and happy 4th.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right. Okay, Chair Hardwick, did you want to wrap up with the explanation for the crest, or?
I can do just briefly. They wanted to get some additional drawings to show what it would end up looking like, and they were going to get the city's staff report, which at least as of the time of our meeting was not on the website, but they did get it. They did say they had received a mostly favorable report for it. And the one disagreement, the city wants to make sure that, well, everyone agrees that there should be no restaurant seating within the greenhouse. This is to put a greenhouse in front of the crest. If you go by it, you'll see they already have plants out there. It sounds like you just want to put glass around it and allow people to, they do what they would like to allow people to go in there and pick their own greens and pick their own vegetables for the food they're going to eat. The city has said they don't want any of the public in there. I think there might be some room for compromise there if they put in a no seating rule, because they just don't want to the city just wants to make sure there's no additional parking required. And that's one thing they emphasized is their parking arrangements will stay exactly the same. The capacity for seating will stay exactly the same. They're just adding this. Commissioner Votero raised some concerns about whether they might have fans in it that would be really close to a nearby duplex. They were going to look into that. Commissioner Votero also pointed out that this is on Indianola and it's very close to the street, and they may want to look to make sure that whatever glass they're putting up 10 feet or so from the street can withstand having a snowplow blast it with whatever debris is on the road. I think this is Commissioner Votero's district, so if there's Chair White, if he had anything to add, he might have something to add. Otherwise, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chair Hardwick. Commissioner Votero, did you want to add anything to that, or are we just going to go ahead and pause this conversation until August?
I don't really have much to add other than I'm going to reach out to the Crest's attorney and just make sure that, you know, we have all these questions answered before next month. I'm glad we have the extra time to do that, and we can have a good meeting of the mind in terms of what the city's positions are, whether it's traffic in terms of the sightline questions that got asked. Also, we can resolve the questions about maybe the potential for noise and stuff like that. So I'm very glad that they gave us a month to kind of get some good answers here, and I'll work with them to see if we can't get all those questions answered before next month.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Votero. We appreciate that. Circle back to us. Okay, we are at that, we're just flying through this meeting, aren't we? We are now where we're going to have a discussion and election of committee chairs and election of officers. I'd like to first begin with discussion.
According to the bylaws, the committee chairs are not elected. They're appointed after the July meeting.
Yes, that is true. That is true. So first of all, I want to talk about the appointed chairs of what I know so far. So I've done an email blast to all of our chairpersons, and I wanted to make known those who have expressed their intention to stay on, and those who have expressed that they are ready to step aside and hand the baton over to someone else. So I'll first start with the Green Spot Neighborhood Committee, and Commissioner Weatherholt has laid the groundwork for this committee, and she actually began this committee. She embraced it, and she started a brand new committee, generated interest, and she always has very positive things to report about this committee. However, Commissioner Weatherholt has decided that she is, I think, correct me, Commissioner Weatherholt, if I'm wrong. I know you will.
Oh.
I think Commissioner Weatherholt said that she's not abruptly resigning, but that she would like to kind of feather away and allow time to do some succession planning for her replacement as chair for the Green Spot Neighborhood Committee. And I said, that's a wonderful idea. So I think that once Commissioner Weatherholt has procured her replacement for chair, and I see no reason why we shouldn't have somebody equitable to her commitment and skill set step up, because she's groomed a lot of really strong members of that committee. So, but yes, Commissioner Weatherholt will eventually feather away as soon as she procures her replacement. Do you want to say anything to that, Commissioner Weatherholt?
No, I would love to have been doing more in this shutdown time, but we just haven't been able to. And as you say, we've got lots of committed people, and I'm sure lots of people who want to join. Plus, I have major commitments with Clintonville Women's Club at this point. So I know that there will be somebody else who has more time and more environmental knowledge than I do to step in and help keep the committee going in the directions and meeting the goals that we have.
Well, I think you've set up the next chairperson for success, and I think you've laid the groundwork and gotten lots of people interested. It's probably the most active committee that we have. So I appreciate you.
Thanks.
All right, Technology and Public Relations Committee. Ty, you're here. Would you like to say anything about your committee and your intention to serve?
All right, you can hear me? Yes, sir.
I can.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, so I think the last year or so, where I feel like I've probably taken more of a role on it, and I've been trying to fine tune some processes, make things easier, and trying to get a cohesive message across all the different platforms. And there's always more and more social media ways to get out there. So I think we've tried to expand some. We'll keep working on it. I think the last few months have taught us a lot in terms of finding ways around the usual in-person meetings that we have. So, like, yeah, so I said I would stay on. I think just looking to expand and get a couple new folks in there to help handle some of the other postings and just get some other involvement as well. So, and new ideas, I'm sure, come out of getting some new folks involved too.
Well, Ty, I really appreciate you. And I don't know if I've said it enough, but I always try to say, whenever I forward you request and ask you to do something, I always try to say please at least twice. And I always try to say thank you at least 3 times and throw in a little, I appreciate you. And I don't know if it's good enough. And I don't know if you're getting tired of it, if it's just becoming wallpaper, but I do appreciate you, Ty, because you've had to kind of compensate for quite a lot over the last 3 to 4 months. And I really appreciate you doing that. So you're going to continue to serve, and let's talk about maybe making that committee a little bit more robust with community volunteers. Would you be seeking more participants to work with you and help you share the load?
Yeah, no, I think we could use at least a couple other people just to help expand, get some more involvement, I would say, because I'm sure they hear other things that we don't necessarily hear about that would be good to share with the community as well. So,
well, I'll tell you what, Ty, I'll reach out to our tech and PR chair, and I'll see if we can get some interest generated that way. All right. Well, thank you, Ty. I appreciate your continued service. Chair Ann Heckner of our election committee has already committed to continue to serve. Of course, we hear a lot from Ann. We get a little bit Chair Heckner heavy when we, approach election time. Otherwise, she's off on hiatus. So, but she did commit via email that she would be indeed happy to serve enthusiastically for the CAC. We'll go ahead and go to Commissioner Garrison for the Historic Buildings Committee.
Yes, so in terms of the Historic Buildings Committee, as many know, it kind of was on hiatus for a while. There was some information that was hanging out, and I've worked with a few people who have interest in the committee. Things started to get rolling, and then the pandemic kind of put us all in our houses for a while. I've taken the opportunity recently to kind of get all of the information into a better to use format. So right now, as far as the information that I have access to, it is an Excel spreadsheet that someone named Nick, I forget his last name, I apologize. He had worked with some people previously on a list of properties. And then there was the large green binder with photos and other things that is in kind of a hard copy format. So the goal of it is to try to, before it was more just documentation, and we're trying to align it with potential design guidelines in the future where we identify properties of historic value within the neighborhood along High Street and Indianola corridors. Not to say that anything else is excluded, but as I'm seeing in the work that has been done previously, it's overwhelmingly, I don't want to say mundane, but very detailed and technical. So I do have something that I can share my screen if that's okay, to just kind of give an idea of what's going on right now.
I'm not sure, I typically have it enabled. I've never had issues by having participants share their screen, and I'm not sure why.
Okay.
It's not doing it this evening. I'm just not sure why.
It's okay. I can describe it pretty easily. Essentially, what I did was Google Maps has the ability to very easily import data into a map as long as you have location data within that spreadsheet. So because the location data that was created previously was pulled from the auditor's website with different information and address fields, I was able to import that into into Google Maps and quickly make a beginning of kind of where we're headed towards. Essentially, you click on a link, it'll take you to the historic buildings map, and then it will show all the properties as little thumbnails or little icons. You can click on a location and the information on that property will be auto-updated in terms of legal description. We can attach photos, and then also any labels that we want to put on some of those properties. So if there are contributing properties, we can have a note about that. And it's not necessarily an official thing. It's just something that, is a tool for us to use going forward. So the next step on this is taking those two sources of information, the electronic that's overly complex and limited to just High Street, and adding to that all of the scanning of all of the physical photos, and then expanding on that with areas of more urgent concern. So in the coming weeks or months, I'll probably be sending out a link and queuing you some, asking everyone about their input on any specific properties that they want to have escalated to a higher priority. As far as the committee going forward, I do have interest in staying on as chair if that's an available thing for me. And that's pretty much the conclusion of report for that committee.
Well, thank you so much. And I know that a good part of your role is working in concert with Mary Rogers at the Clintonville Historical Society. And we appreciate your ambassadorship to that as well. Okay, thank you. We're going on to the Clintonville Area Commission Planning and Development Committee. Andrew Overbeck serves as chair, and he does an exemplary job of chairing that committee, and has really enriched that committee with a lot of very impassioned people about some of those projects. And I lean heavily on Andrew for a lot of information, especially when it comes down to learning about how to prioritize capital improvements and when to discuss UIRF funding and that kind of thing. So fortunately, Andrew is going to go ahead and continue to serve in the chairperson role of that committee, and I'm very happy about that. Zoning and Variance Committee, Chair Hardwick, you're here. Speak for yourself.
Yes, I'd be happy to stay on if you're willing to keep me.
Well, I'm not willing to lose you, so
Okay.
I guess that answers that.
Okay.
No, we already. Do you intend to replace Paul Bingle, or do you intend to maybe add another member, or?
Yes, we need, yes, and I have not checked with existing members to see if they all plan on staying for another year or not.
Okay.
So that's the first thing I'll do. I'll do that sometime by this weekend and find out whether they still want to know whether they still want to serve.
Okay, we'll circle back to me. Let me know how I can help, and I'm sure that our tech and PR chair Ty would be happy to help you out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chair Hardwick. Okay, are we ready to talk about election of officers? Okay, all right. How do we want to do this? I know we've got some open positions. Let's see. I'm gonna get to a point where I can take notes. And we've got the vacated secretary position that belonged to Cara Nimitz. We've got that to fill. Commissioner Carpenter did express an interest in staying on as treasurer, but we don't take for granted that if someone else has an interest in that, they're welcome to express their interest, and we'll go from there. let's see, Secretary, Treasurer. Help me out, Commissioner Weatherholt.
Vice Chair or Vice
Oh, yeah.
President.
Yeah, Chair and Vice Chair. Sorry, I should have said that. Okay, so we've got Chair, Vice Chair, Secretary, and Treasurer. All right. Is there anybody who expresses an interest in serving as treasurer to the Clintonville Area Commission? If interested, please state your name.
I would nominate Kendra.
All right, so we have a nomination for
Assuming she's expressed some interest in staying. I think she's been very effective. She's done a lot of good things in the short time she's been treasurer. If she's willing to stay, I think she should remain as treasurer.
I would concur, Commissioner Botero. I think she's done a great job. So since she is unopposed, we'll go ahead and close out that nomination and say that if Commissioner Carpenter wishes to stay on, which she has expressed an interest, then she shall remain as Clintonville Area Commission Treasurer for the upcoming year. And we'll move on to Secretary.
Don't we have to vote?
Oh, for someone who's okay.
Well, I'm not sure at this point. I know there was something about district people, but I think we still need to vote for them, don't we?
Well, I didn't think that we did if they were unopposed, but it wouldn't hurt.
Well, that goes for districts now with the change, but I don't know what our bylaws say on that. Really.
Okay, let's go ahead and exercise a vote. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4. District 5.
Yes.
District 6. District 7.
Yes.
You feed them.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9 too shall vote yes to keep Kendra Carpenter as CAC treasurer.
Yeah, in the bylaws, it says the officers shall be elected at the annual meeting, so.
Okay. I wasn't sure if they were unopposed, if we still had to exercise a vote. I appreciate you.
Well, and, that may be something we want to change to go along with the district representatives as the year goes on, because the city changed that for us on those.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Weatherholt. Okay, let's go ahead and go to secretary. Do we have any interested parties interested in becoming the secretary for the Clintonville Area Commission?
Brittany Bolton is interested in running for secretary.
Commissioner Bolton, okay. Do we have any other interest?
I would second her nomination, self-nomination. Brittany, you're kind of jumping in here, and I admire that. I actually think it's a good position for you to get to know how the commission works. So I think it's actually a good thing for you if you want to quickly kind of figure out how things run on the commission. It's a great idea.
I definitely do. And
I'm grateful that you stepped up to it too.
Ditto.
Thanks.
And I don't know if any of you have taken time to read Commissioner Bolton's bio and had an opportunity to talk to her. I've read her bio. I have read her resume, and I've had the opportunity to meet with Commissioner Bolton. And I think that I would look forward to bringing her on as secretary if she so wishes. So I guess we'll, are we ready to vote to secure that nomination and get her ramped up and ready to go?
Yes.
All right. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4. District 5.
Yes.
District 6. District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9 shall vote yes for Commissioner Bolton to be secretary. And I'll help you out in every step of the way, okay? Congratulations.
Thank you. I really
All right. And
thank you.
let's go ahead and shall we vote for chair before we vote for vice chair? Which one should we do first? Someone make a motion. Anyone?
Let's do the vice chair first. You're kind of moving in that direction. Let's do that.
Okay. All right. Would anyone like to nominate or step up to offer to be vice chair?
I'm currently the vice chair, and I'd like to say I'd like to remain in the role another year. I've built up a good relationship with Bill Owens. That's kind of one of the small roles that the vice chair has, is to be a liaison to the CAC. The past year, I've had a number of meetings with Bill and gotten to know him. I guess I'd like to build on that relationship over the next year and then turn it over after that at some point.
Thank you.
I also don't want to stand in somebody's way. If somebody has a burning desire to be the vice chair, I'm happy to step aside. But I would like to remain in the role if nobody else is interested in it. But I will step aside if somebody else has a desire to do it.
I would second Commissioner Votero's self-nomination as well, just in terms of to the same points that he mentioned in terms of helping coordinate meetings, kind of moving agendas along, things that inevitably stall because of our professional obligations come back to the surface because of a lot of his involvement. So I would second that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And if we are to forge ahead with that vote, are we ready to vote for Commissioner Votero's self-nomination of vice chair? Okay. Do we have a second on the nomination, but do we have a second to vote?
Yes.
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4. District 5.
Yes.
District 6. District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
District 9 too shall vote yes. Thank you, David Votero. We appreciate you, Vice Chair. You do the job of, I wanted to say, you are I don't think of you as a vice chair. I think of you as kind of a co-chair. I think that you complement a lot of what we need. I've observed your work with the architectural review. You have facilitated meetings with city council members, and you do step up as needed. And I just really want to thank you for your fortitude.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm happy to continue in the role for a bit.
Okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate that. And we are ready to move on to chair. Do we have any nominations for the chair of the CAC?
I nominate BJ White.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I say a few words? I would like to say that I learned a lot of how I do this role, how I execute this gig. I learned it from watching Commissioner Weatherholt. I think that having held 2.5 years of district meetings within my own district really helped groom me for the role, but nothing could have prepared me for having to facilitate the commission's meetings with the COVID-19.
Yeah.
And it has been a challenge. And I'm a liberal arts graduate, and I'm a real estate professional. I'm not the most tech savvy person you've ever met, but I do have a will to learn it. And I learn technology on an as needed basis. And when I learned that we had to find alternative ways to meet, it was at the motivation of Chair Stephen Hardwick, who pled with me, who said, you know, construction season is upon us. Construction projects begin in the planning stages in February and March, right when this COVID-19 storm hit. And we met in March. And I remember having that conversation about, you know, for those of us who were running as commissioners, you know, I remember Commissioner Votero saying, do we really want to go door to door knocking and getting signatures for petitions? Do we really want to be doing that? And at that time, I was still in the infancy of my thinking about this whole COVID-19 thing. And I wasn't really wrapping my mind around it. And now in looking back, I think David Votero had the wherewithal and the forethought to think about how dangerous this virus could be and how we need to adapt our practices. And at that March CAC meeting, I was not on that same wavelength. You know, to me, I thought it's the news du jour. It's something that happens in other countries. It's certainly not going to happen to us. And I really, and looking back, I applaud Commissioner Votero's forethought to that. And by the time the April meeting came around and having conversations with Stephen Hardwick, I learned that Clintonville, we're always doing things to our houses. We're always tearing down garages and building garages. We're always doing something to our homes. And it's really important to the community to have continuity of area commission business. And it was only, you know, with the encouragement, I think everybody else was kind of like shell shocked. Everybody else was kind of in a holding pattern. And we were all just kind of figuring out how are we going to go about our daily lives? How are we going to look after the kids? How are we going to work? Stephen and I kind of figured it out. And so I decided to talk. I mean, early on, no other area commission was knocking on the city attorney's door like I was, but I figured it out. And it was only because I had Stephen Hardwick breathing down my neck to figure this out. So I want to thank Stephen Hardwick for being my motivation to make it a better all-around situation for Clintonville. And I want to thank him for being my motivation for imposing upon me a new standard and being adaptable and figuring it out. And then on the tail end of that, I want to thank Catherine Call for helping support those initiatives and helping us make sure and ensure that we were doing it the right way. And if it's the one thing that I can look back in self-reflection and self-assessment and say, heck yeah, I did okay. You know, I think it's managing this technology piece and doing it for the good of community and for continuity of business. But it wasn't just from me. It was your support and you guys giving me feedback and being on the receiving end of all my nagging emails, asking you for feedback. How about this and how about that? So this was a commission initiative. I think I just kind of helped let what was trickling down from Stephen Hardwick onto me. I just let that trickle down onto you. And I just want to thank you guys for making this an absolute honor and doing the challenge of this job, of this gig, even easier. So I appreciate that. And I will accept your nomination. And if we're ready to vote, I'll go ahead and call roll. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3.
Yes.
District 4. District 5.
Yes.
District 6. District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9, I'll vote yes as well. Thank you for having me as your chair. And congratulations to all of our elected officers, and thank you for the chairpersons who are continuing to serve. And thank you, Commissioner Brother Holt, for keeping all of this on track. All right. Let's see. We've got some time. We've never had time where we had actual breathing room to discuss any kind of topics. Would anyone like to talk about any kind of trending topics or anything that's going on? No, no, no. Okay. Everybody's kind of looking forward to we have some guests who are attending. We've got Kari Ingen from 362 East Canal Avenue on attending the meeting. Anything you want to say? District 9 constituent? Okay. All right. And then we've got Chastity.
Everybody.
Hi.
The first time I met BJ was right before everything hit. I serve as the Zone 4 Assistant City Attorney. So if anyone has any concerns or any questions or anything like that, please let me know. I can put my information right in the Zoom group chat. So for any, like I said, any concerns or anything like that. The last in-person meeting, I actually got there a bit late because I was at a North Central Area Commission meeting. And so, and then things kind of just happened as they have, unfortunately. But I'm here and definitely available. So I will put my information in the group chat.
Thank you. Thank you.
BJ, I would just say I continue to be so concerned about all of our small businesses in Clintonville. We specialize in small local businesses here. That's one of the things that makes us so unique. And this entire period of time has been very, very hard on all small businesses as well as residents and everything else. And I just continue to say that the concern is with all of us, I think.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Weatherford. I think that I'm doing my best. Early on, I volunteered for a friend of mine who owns Cornerstone Deli. And I check in with them from time to time, and it's going to take us all a while to recover and recuperate, and the lucky ones will recover and recuperate. And I've reached out to the Clintonville Chamber to ask, have they had any expressed concerns? Is there anything that the Clintonville Area Commission can do to work in concert with the chamber, to be a sounding board, to work with businesses? And I routinely and regularly reach out to them, and I don't really hear a lot of I don't get a call to action from them. Mm-hmm. But I do think you all know that I started the parking task force because a lot of our residents in the neighborhoods that are close to the High Street corridor expressed many concerns about the lack of parking and how the businesses and the patrons to those businesses consume a lot of parking spaces. And having started that task force and gotten off to a start and doing some exercises and some research and some investigation and trying to take those neighborhood concerns seriously, I'm sorry to say I haven't had any concerns about parking. And that's a really sad day in Clintonville when you don't get concerns about parking. And so we're just going to have to find a way. This year would have been the first year if COVID-19 did not occur. I know that Pat Kearns Davis and her group that helps to sponsor the Clintonville Fireworks, they would, they've been longstanding sponsors of those fireworks. And this year, those fireworks probably would have gone missed had it not been for COVID-19. This would have been the first year that Clintonville went without fireworks for a very long time. And, so we've got those changes going on too, like who's going to sponsor the fireworks in 2021? just a lot of things that are adversely affecting our community right now. And we're just going to have to, be better business partners, and we're going to have to be better partners to our community, and maybe step up and start doing a little bit beyond our role and leaning into some of those community initiatives. That's the only thing I can figure out right now, is because it's you know, we're feeling it. We're feeling it. And I know that it's more pronounced in other communities who aren't as fortunate as Clintonville. So we're just going to have to be better community servants and see what we can make happen. We'll take it one day at a time. Does anybody else have anything? Thank you, Commissioner Weatherholt, for mentioning that. Does anybody else have any other concerns or topics that they'd like to discuss?
Brief. May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just one side on the parking issue. One thing that I've been concerned about, and I think it's based on a comment Commissioner Weinman made when we were dealing with the, I think it was the brew pub parking, which is the city mixes together accessible and non-accessible parking. And so when you give a variance to one, you automatically give a variance to the other proportionally. And if there's a way we could start decoupling those and only giving people and saying, you have to keep the same number of accessible spots, because as he pointed out, the same reasoning that says we're trying to say people are going to walk to these places, bike to these places eventually when COVID goes away. That doesn't apply to accessible spots.
Right.
So those whatever number of accessible spots are needed should stay the same. But if the city has no mechanism to do that, it would be nice if we could find a way to decouple that.
I think, Stephen, that the city does have a mechanism for that. The way that I think it works is, say a business is required to have 100 parking spaces, and they get a variance to have only 50. They still have to base the number of accessible spaces on the 100 number.
That's not what the city zoning staff has told me. They say that the number of accessible spaces goes down as you give them a variance on the total number of parking.
I think the building department enforces that differently than zoning staff does.
Yeah, I was at the same meeting that Stephen was at, and that's exactly what they said. When Stephen brought it up at the meeting, there was that large zoning training meeting, and that's exactly what they said. It was exactly what Stephen just said.
Yeah, okay. There's oftentimes that zoning and the building department are two different things, and sometimes they don't talk to each other. But that's a good point. I mean, it should be clear to both sides. I've had site plans where I've had to use that that exact number. So I'm surprised they're not speaking to one another.
And under the Americans with Disabilities Act,
right,
you only have to provide 2% of your parking spaces, only 2%. So,
and I don't know that anything prevents us from, making it more known that that's what the standard that we would, expect from applicants, and having conversations with perhaps the zoning variance committee where we, as a commission, say, hey, all parking variances, we're still going to hold them accountable to the number of spots. So if they don't provide that, as an applicant, then we may not approve the variance request. I mean, ultimately, I know that it does go to the BZA, but perhaps that's a half measure on the way to getting something more official, where we just make sure that we are aware of that issue. And anytime there's a parking variance request, we can have the discussion in each meeting at the time saying, well, let's talk about accessible parking at this point.
Yeah,
You do have to
oftentimes the big number, right, before all of the variances that may happen. And sometimes there's properties that have a whole history of variances. So you have to look back at that base number before any of these variances or before any of the urban overlays get applied to it. And that should be the basis for the number of accessible spaces. That base number before any of those sort of, I'll say discounts, that's the wrong term, but effectively, that's the way it should work. That's the way it's been enforced to me on some projects in the past. I guess I'm not surprised that there's maybe a discontinuity between the building and the zoning issues. That happens, and Jim may have encountered that too, that, you know, it's one city and sometimes you get two answers from two different departments. But since it's been, you know, part of the zoning training, we should pursue that and try to get a more defined universal answer from the city on that. And I think it should be based on the higher number.
And that usually means we need to offer, if they're asking for a parking variance downward, we need to offer them a couple extra spots, because if they're asking to go from 50 to 20, well, maybe they'll need to go from 50 to 18 in order to add to keep one accessible spot. So that's just something we need to remember on that. So we're actually asking the applicants to ask for a bigger variance.
Yeah, we should do that. But the city has a published, you know, accessible parking, you know, guidelines sheet that they hand every contractor that walks in the door. And, you know, it has a bracketed index of the minimum number of accessible spaces, and it defines, you know, how many need to be van accessible spaces, and you know, shows the city's mandated layout for those spaces. So
I'm looking to seeing about getting maybe more of a clear answer. And I mean, even if it's two different answers, at least just something where it's a little bit, you know, just a bit more clear about that.
Yeah.
I'll have that hopefully for the next meeting.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Anything else for the good of the group? Anything? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank everybody, thank all the chairs, thank all the officers, congratulate all the new officers, and give my deepest gratitude to all of you for allowing me to chair your Clintonville Area Commission. Thank you for having me. And I want to wish you all a very happy and safe 4th. I'm sure it will be uneventful because we'll all be wearing masks and staying home. So, but thank you, everybody. Please feel free, consider me to your avail. I'm going nowhere over the weekend, so let me know if I can be of service. And the meeting is adjourned. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.